Hi, it's Dia. Today I'm going to compare a 72 set of Prang to a 72 set of Crayola colored pencils, and I'm going to be comparing in a picture from my coloring book called The Buns. I did use the artist edition because the paper is dense and thick and textured, and there'll be a little bit of an experiment later with what ended up to be the Purple Nightmare, but more about that later. Let's start with the Prang set. First blush, the pencils feel very similar to the Crayola pencils. The Crayola pencils are a little bit sharper, and all the Crayola pencils have a complete name in several languages, actually. And the Prang pencils do not have a name or a number. They only say Prang, so it's a little harder to figure out what you've used before. I mean, obviously you'll be able to tell green from red because the barrels and the point have a color, but they're not identifiable in any other way. So it would make it a little difficult to create a color chart. So what I thought I would do here is start with the Prang pencils, and I figured I would just color in a strawberry and a leaf with Prang, and then I would color in a strawberry and a leaf using the Crayola pencils. So first blush, the Prang pencils are hard. They hold a tip wonderfully, and the other thing that I noticed about them right away is that they're very transparent. You can't really build up enough color to ever, especially with the lighter colors, to ever cover up the black lines of a coloring book. The core is a hard wax core, and it is a 3.3 millimeter core. And the pencils can give, I would say, a decent vibrancy, some more than others, and they can be intensified if you push harder, just like with any other pencil. I would say that although not terrible at blendability, they're not the best at blendability. And you can see right here where I first did the lightish, greenish, yellowish area right underneath the stem of the strawberry. I eventually bring the red and that little pink color that I used together, and the yellow showed through. It didn't really cover well, which is good for some things, like if you want to do veins in leaves, that's good, but if you're trying to blend two very different colors together, it's not the best. Oh, but that being said, I like this set. It's very easy to hold the point, and it's very easy to get very detail-y areas on the first layer. If you're trying to get details on top of on top of an area that you pushed very hard, it's not as good. As you can see, I used several reds here, and around the bottom perimeter of this strawberry, I used a darker, almost burgundy, and a brownish sort of ruby color. And it did layer to a point. I'm kind of going back and forth. It layered to a point. I can't say you can get layer after layer. A darker color will go over the top of a lighter color. The greens were nice to work with here. There's a lot of little angles on those leaves, and the darker greens especially showed up very nicely. I put some yellow on the interior of the leaves as highlight. I like to use the lighter color first because it's easier to go around it rather than trying to put the light on top of a darker color. I went back and forth with several different greens, a more tropical green, a yellowy green, a spring green, just to make the leaves a little more dimensional looking. And then I eventually used a very dark green around the perimeter to even try to add more dimension to it, and a shadowy color underneath the leaves to make it look even more dimensional. I started with the dark green in the leaf area, and then underneath I tried to do a darker red. Then I went to purple, then I went to brown, and then I eventually went to black. And the black on top of the other colors wasn't even that dark black or that intense of a black. I don't know, I should have probably tried it first, but I didn't think that I was going to have a problem with the black. Here's me going over some of the details with the purple, and then deciding I was going to have to go over again to get more of a shadowy look. So you can see when I eventually found the black, because it's not labeled black, it wasn't even that intense, and I was pushing pretty hard here. But I mean, it was definitely okay. I mean, I think that these pencils are absolutely fun to use. They're, if you're coloring, if you're just, coloring for fun, if you're just doing it for relaxation, I think the Prang set is a great set. You know what? Let me check how much it is. Hold on. The 72 set is $12, $11.99 to be exact, on Amazon, which to me, they're great for $12.99. I'm going over the reds here again to make it a little more intense, and I have to say it did layer and it did get brighter. They're also certified non-toxic, so that's another plus. Okay, now over to the leaf, and once again, I'm going to use the yellows first. Anywhere that I want the highlight, I'm just going to color that first. You could hear the pencil, they're very dry, and I did not have one pencil point break. And I colored very quickly here because I wasn't trying to make a masterpiece. I was just trying to compare the quality of the two sets. And yeah, nothing broke. You can see how I was going over the yellow, and the yellow still stands out, even though I was going over it with a slightly darker green. So that's an interesting quality. I had no problem at all going over the lighter green or the yellow with the darker green. I was pushing relatively hard here and going relatively quickly. And I was actually liking the results very much of the way the leaf was turning out with the Prang pencils. Right about now, I was thinking that I would probably try to see if I could use a blender, either pencil or even some Gamsol or Turpenoid at the end to see how it worked on top of these wax pencils. I have never really used Prang other than, I'm trying to think, it was either the very bright pencil or the fluorescent pencils. But once again, they felt similar. They were hard, but there's something I like about the hardness because it's easier to control. But along with that hard wax, I think comes a slight decrease in intensity of pigment. I think this came out pretty, and I did end up going over later. Oh, here it is right now. I ended up putting even a darker green and a turquoise blue down in the center, and a tropical green to make the veins stand out a little bit more, and just to make the leaf look a little bit more dimensional. And I like the way it looked even more after that. So now I decided to move on to the other strawberry and start with the Crayolas. So at first blush, using the yellow and a similar green, I would say that the Crayolas are slightly more creamy. I would say that the intensity might also be I think they might be slightly more intense, but not by much. They were similar. And you know what? To be honest with you, I don't know which pencils I would pick if I had to choose one, because, and I don't like to say, oh, definitely get this set because you'll like it better, because you know what? Some people have a heavy hand and they might love the Prang, and some people might like the more creamy feel of the Crayolas. Now I'm just going to talk about what I did here really quickly. I used an accidental pink shade on the upper part of the berry. I was trying to do almost a lightish red or a lighter pink, and it came out quite fuchsia. But you know what? I left it there because I figured, you know what? We all make mistakes, and I wanted to see how I could work with it anyway. So I also made a mistake of pushing pretty hard with the red because I wanted to see the intensity, and I shouldn't have done that. I should have at least left it a little bit lighter so I could build up the layer. So when I was trying to go over it with a darker burgundy and possibly a purple, it was hard. Well, once again, you know, these pencils have a binder to pigment ratio that's not that great. And that's probably why the pencils are so inexpensive. Now, this set is $14 on Amazon. And by the way, everything that I talk about will be in the information box below, including the books and the pencils and the sharpeners that I use. And I'm just getting distracted by my own coloring here. Okay, what I did here was pick a medium green. I tried to pick a very basic green and kind of do what I was doing with the other leaves on the other strawberry. So yellow in the middle, darker around the perimeter, and then, you know, blend it all in to make it look, if not exactly the same, to give it a fair chance against one another. Now, all that being said, these strawberries look like strawberries. The colors are relatively bright. The leaves are nice and green. They're pretty. Oh, here's the yellow from the Crayola set. Once again, slightly more creamy and slightly more pigmented. So I left this area slightly rough around the edges, I guess you could say, because I wanted to see how the greens were going to blend, and if I could kind of almost do the opposite of what I did with the Prang pencils and use any of the lighter colors over the top of the darker colors, which is what I did here. This is a sort of a lighter spring green. And I can't really say there was a whole lot of blending going on here. As you can see here also, I left the edges scratchy looking, and once again, not a masterpiece, but all in all, I like the way the Crayola colors look. And interestingly enough, I use Crayola pencils sometimes as a base if I'm going to do something with a lot of dimension. For let's say something like an apple. There's a lot of colors there. It looks like maybe, oh, here's a red apple, but it's not. It's yellow and it's green and it's other kind of green, and then it's red and maroon and burgundy and gold, every kind of color you can think of. And a lot of times I'll start with a Crayola gold or a yellow, because or even a red in certain areas, because I like the way, especially if I'm going to use a wax pencil over the top of it, I like to lay Crayolas down first. Now you can see this leaf is actually coming out really nicely, despite the fact that I'm messy and going pretty quickly. The colors are pretty vibrant. Now I'm just going over the top of everything to blend it a little bit more, and I'm also going over the top of the Crayola one. And then I thought it would be interesting in a little bit if I could use the Prang over the Crayola and the Crayola over the Prang, and just for my own curiosity to see what that would feel like. And I was assuming that it would be fine since they were both wax based. Here I took a Prismacolor blender, and it did blend it a bit, as you can see. So if you want to go over the top with your Prismacolor blender, thumbs up for that. And here's Turpenoid. I wanted to see if it worked, and it absolutely did. I do think that it made it look smoother, and I think it made it look more professional. So you can see there, it almost looks like magic marker now. It looks really nice. I'm going over the berries too with the Turpenoid. You can use Gamsol, you can use Turpenoid, whatever you like. There's also an orange scented one out there, but I'm just telling you right now, it smells a lot like orange. And if you like it, meaning if you like orange, also thumbs up. Now here's where I thought I would go over the Crayola with the Prang and the Prang with the Crayola. And once again, it worked really nicely, especially after you used, or after I used the Turpenoid. I always like to do that anyway. I feel like the Turpenoid gives it like a whole new surface. It resurfaces it and it makes it smooth and gorgeous again. So you can get a couple extra layers in there. Now, I thought I would use the Uni Posca. This is the fine point paint pen. And rather than trying to fill in those little spots to begin with, or try to avoid them initially and make them yellow, I figured I would go over the top with the Posca pen. And right now I was very happy that I did that, because as you can see, it went over the Prang and the Crayola perfectly. Not a problem at all. And then I let that dry for a couple seconds, and then I thought I would add some, like a little bit of dimension around the seeds. If you look at a strawberry very carefully, where the little seeds are is a little bit indented. So I thought I would highlight that a little bit. Now I'm using Crayola on the Prang here, and as you can see, it's working great. And now that I put the Turpenoid over the whole thing, even better. The colors are showing up brightly. Even on that Crayola berry, which I pushed really hard on that one, it's working great. So that, I guess this sort of shows you how to color a strawberry too. And then to finish this whole thing up, I just started fussing around a bit. I used some darker colors of either set, whatever color I thought was more appropriate in the veins of the leaves or the shadows, just to see what it would all look like if they were working together. So, yep, you can use the set together too, because probably because they're both wax based. I love using turquoise and aqua colors in leaves. It adds such a nice dimension. It's not just for Caribbean water. So after I did this, I had what I thought at the moment, I thought I had a great idea, and I would see which pencil would last the longest. So I took a purple from each set, and I thought I would see how long it would take to actually wear through or color through an entire pencil. And at first it was kind of fun. I was watching a video while I was doing it, or listening to a video, and I was pushing pretty hard and kind of thought I had it down to a science. And I figured every time I would have to sharpen, I would do a little tick mark, and just see how many times I had to sharpen. So the first one I used was the Prang purple. I don't know what color purple it is because, like I said before, there's no names on the Prang set. So this plummy purple, and I colored and colored and colored until you can see the point was really flat. Oh, you can also see that it got so low that it started to scratch the paper. I wouldn't recommend doing this if you're actually coloring something. Sharpen it way before this. Plus it feels so nice to use a freshly sharpened pencil. So I just kept coloring and coloring and coloring. And right about here, I started to question, because I haven't even sharpened it yet, and my wrist was already tired. And I also pondered giving up. Oh, that was me giving you the sign of 3. So that means I sharpened it 3 times at this point. And although I thought of just saying forget it, at this point I had to know. So this is the pencil sharpener I used. And I only sharpened it, bing, till the light went on. If it was a perfect point or not, that was okay with me. So here we are, about halfway down with the pencil, and I needed one of these Raffine pencil lengtheners. And then when it got even smaller, I used this Brunswick sharpener because I couldn't fit it in the sharpener anymore. And then this M&R sharpener when the Brunswick wasn't even sharp enough. And here are all of the pages. The 2 on the right were the Prang, and the 2 on the left were the Crayola. Now, funny enough, the Crayola had a moment in the center of the pencil where it was harder to sharpen. It was sharpening crooked, so I kept having to resharpen it because the wood covered too much of the pencil, so it wore down very, very quickly. But they both filled up almost 2 full sheets, and it took me a couple hours to do that. So these pencils last a really, really long time. And you can see the pigment is there, especially in the darker colors. Now, all that being said, I don't think you can go wrong with either set. And here are the pluses about each set. The Prang pluses are the lead is super hard and it's great for fine details. The points last forever and don't break, and they are a great price. The Crayola Plus is the lead is a bit creamier and they feel nicer to use. They have very bright pigment, and the price is also great with the Crayola. So once again, I don't think you can make a bad choice here. Great for coloring, great for beginner artists when you're just starting out, great for sketching. I had a ball with both of these sets, and as you can see, you can draw a really nice and color a really nice image and not spend a lot of money at all. Thank you so much for joining me. I just wanted to tell you that all the information about the book that I colored from, about the pencils that I used, the sharpeners, the pencil holders, will all be in the information box below, including my coloring group on Facebook. If you want to join me, I would love to have you. And you can find my books on Etsy and on Amazon, the artist edition or the regular Amazon edition. I hope you follow me. I hope you like me, and maybe even give me a share if you like to watch the video. Thank you so much. I hope you're all doing well, and I hope I see you soon. Thank you. Bye.